Thanks for joining us on this Friday. For 20 years, a legal battle over oil pollution in the rainforests of Ecuador has raged on. But despite rulings made in court, contamination levels remain very high, and the company responsible has done very little to clean up the mess.
Mira el guante, estaba el agua totalmente limpia hace un momento antes de que yo comience a menear. Una vez que yo comienzo a menear, comienza a salir el sedimento. Y esto es lo que hay. Mira.
But now there is a new twist in the case. A key witness who testified for Chevron, the U.S. oil giant deemed responsible for the ecological disaster, now admitted to lying for the company for a hefty financial reward. We spoke to the legal representative of the Ecuadorian people who explained what's happened.
Basically, Chevron in Ecuador committed what is probably the worst oil contamination in the world. The company, over a period of many years, dumped billions of gallons of toxic waste. And ultimately, the Supreme Court of Ecuador affirmed a $10 billion judgment against Chevron. Chevron didn't want to pay, so Chevron ended up bribing an Ecuadorian official, paid him $2 million, and this man made up a story that the lawyers for the communities, including myself and others, bribed the trial judge in Ecuador to secure the judgment. In a separate proceeding, this official recanted almost all of his testimony.
Well, after a protracted legal battle, Chevron was found guilty in Ecuador and ordered to pay around $10 billion to affected villagers. But the ruling was later declared void by a U.S. court because one judge in Ecuador claimed he was bribed by lawyers to testify against Chevron. The whole case was hanging on his testimony. However, in another twist, the same judge then admitted at an international tribunal that he was in fact being paid by Chevron to make false claims against Ecuadorian prosecutors. So far, though, neither side is giving up. Simply put, though, the indigenous people of Ecuador, they, of course, are the ones who are suffering. And villagers say Chevron and its subsidiaries polluted the region with over 18 billion gallons of toxic wastewater, 17 million gallons of crude oil. And the company's environmental practices also condemned as, quote, obsolete and outdated. And after all these years, Chevron still hasn't paid up for the ecological disaster in the Amazon forests. However, lawyer Stephen Donziger believes the latest findings might finally lead to Chevron being punished.
So the strategy of the Ecuadorian communities, the indigenous groups and the farmer communities, is to go seize Chevron's assets in other countries. Through so much time, we think they are on the very verge, the cusp of being able to collect those assets, and we think hopefully it will happen in sometime in the next several months. But you can never underestimate Chevron. They have a lot of power. They've used 60 law firms on this case, 2,000 lawyers. Chevron's strategy is just to block the case from even happening. And they try to overwhelm these communities who have virtually no money with resources and with gamesmanship. So we think ultimately Chevron is about to be held accountable. But there are challenges ahead, and the communities intend to meet those challenges and ultimately triumph and collect 100% of the judgment, plus interest on the judgment. So it's now over $10 billion.